So, welcome to the podcast. Today we are joined by Netgear's Gus. Gus, you're the global head of training, is that right?
Yeah, that's it. I've been pulled in from Netgear in September 2023. So coming up to 2 years almost now. Taking care, man. Trying my best here to, make training accessible, smarter, straight to the point, on demand, free of charge. So this is kind of part of my daily activities here at Netgear. You are right.
So, I saw you recently at the webinar where we had a lot of faces from the world of NDI recently. And the idea of the podcast now is for people to get to know you a little bit more and also understand a bit more about Netgear and where you sit in that whole thing. So there's two sides to this. One side, Netgear, what's going on, and the other side is just to find out a bit more information about yourself, where you come from, what you do, that kind of thing. I've got some questions and we'll just start with those, and if we end up going on a tangent, that's fine too. So we'll kick off with the first one then, which is what got you into the industry?
Well, I started as a musician, basically. I think that resonates with a lot of people. Trying to become useful in a musical environment was also part of my, I think, vocation. And then I quickly migrated to DAWs. I remember I was, let's say, messing around with gear and amplifiers and stuff at the age of 13. 12,
Okay,
12,
yeah,
13 was when my musical career started, when we left the garage and we started gigging. So my first, introduction to the industry was from, let's say, a sound guy. This is what I have been doing for my teenagehood and exploring DAWs. At the time was one that was called SoundForge. They might exist still.
Mhm.
2-channel only that you could mix stuff in 2 channels. So you had to grab a piece of audio because I used to, like extract audio from my favorite artists and then mash them up like the intro drums from Red Hot Chili Peppers. I would put the bass intro from another artist and then try to match things on a 2-channel, even if it was digital, was kind of a prior thinking exercise because you would then need to assign how much of that mix you would like to apply. And then it's kind of combined with my songwriting ability. And then I started selling jingles, of which I would then be the composer of the jingle, the producer, the singer. And a funny fact about that was that back in Brazil, where I was born at the time, um, like local councilors and mayors and everybody that was on an election, they would hire like an agency or a studio, a production house like mine, to contract some jingles. And then at a certain point, I was working for the left and the right parties, and then I couldn't use my voice for both. I felt like this will be too conflicting. So I then started to hire other people, and I ended up with a production house. At that time, basically, I had already grasped all my main techniques in audio recording, music production, songwriting. I ended up working for Nintendo, as a sound effects designer for some of their games. And plenty of music has, let's say, flown through my fingers on mixing desk. I don't know how many albums I might have produced, around 50, 60 albums in 5, 7 years that I was only working as a music producer. Then I migrated basically when I graduated university, which was in AV engineering. I had a lot of exposure to video as well at uni. So I found a job at a local TV broadcaster, like a repeater of a major national broadcaster. That got me into video editing, video mixing, like as in vMix, as you guys do the training there. We were using larger consoles with lots and lots of channels. Um, my talent kind of was grown to a stage studio director role. And then I was again pulled by a larger company, which was then the TV Globo, which is the largest national broadcaster in Brazil. That has business with other, let's say, AV production companies. For example, the Formula One, for example, all the FIFA, all the volleyball, all these sports broadcasting, and also shows like
Mm-hmm.
Carnival, Rio Carnival, for example, is they might have changed this because I worked there between 2010 and 2013, but it was, oh my God, I will guesstimate the max number of channels for a carnival show were like 32 channels of video cameras being mixed according to the song that is being sang there, because the carnival is kind of samba schools that parade on this avenue. Carnival is one of the largest accomplishments, I think, in my video mixer career, because it was hours and hours of video mixing synchronized with several samba schools parading on this big Rio Avenue called Samba Drome. That would be the translation, I think, for English. And then I worked for the Endemol reality shows as well, cutting cameras, even in a house of very, I think it's also globally famous reality shows called Big Brother.
Yeah, yeah.
So Brazil still has some editions of that, and I think I worked on the edition 12 and 13, which kind of matched the year that I was there. Anyway, so after, let's say, starting from a musician to a sound guy, music producer, broadcast, TV director, my family has had a chance to move to Europe from Brazil, and it was not supposed to be like a long life in Europe. We were supposed to spend just like a year or maybe 6 months just renewing passports, because my mom is from Italian origin. So we had to go to Italy to renew all our documentation as well. And I never came back. Basically, from 2013, I have been working for the industry. So I no longer work for end users, even if TV Global isn't a large end user of AV and even AV over IP systems. I stopped working for the channel and I started working for manufacturers. First, because I noticed that most of the manufacturers that I've always adored and glorified, they were all here in Europe. You know, offices around. I will not mention them here because that's going to be too personal, but my favorite mixing desk is in the UK. Favorite gear ever, we're all here. So I have dared to put my resume on Indeed, and it's been a journey since then. So I worked for other umbrella holding companies in the AV industry. I've worked for software developers. I worked for acoustic manufacturers. Like I have now this background here, but where I am is my home studio, where the whole room here is made with the materials of an acoustic company that I worked for. And I think that my, let's say, my stepping in, my first experience ever with AV over IP was with CobraNet and another protocol called Dragnet. Um, these were protocols that were supported by one company that I worked for called RANE, RANE. And they are also very famous in the DJ deck scenario in industry, but they have loads and loads and very interesting open architecture DSP, very powerful stuff. So I helped creating the RAIN University. That was my first ever global training manager role. This was again in 2016, I think 2017, 2016. That got me into what I would humbly say is my bread and butter every day, which is media over networks. How do we make that happen, and what are the magical features that we can have with that, and how much that has revolutionized everything. So I remember when I first saw an AES-3 cable, it was clear for me what was doing, but it was no network at the point. So the networking aspect of audio over IP came in a bit later. But of course, I was already familiar with the AES protocols. AES has all my respect for what they did and what they still do, because it is, once you go above the boundary of hot signal, cold signal, the signal itself, once that part is figured, the transporting aspect of it is exactly what brought us here. But at the time when I saw it, I felt like, so now it's more clear for me what they're using with, at the time I was calling the wave file. It's just like a very user-friendly way to say that an electrical representation of a sine wave is going through a cable, but it's no longer an electronic representation as in an analog signal, is a digitalized form. So I remember when I used to say, yeah, this cable sends wave files over XLR, So it is, I think that it got me into the industry, coming to Europe, certainly, and just daring to step up my game. I was happy as a broadcast director. It is a very cool environment. Sometimes it's very toxic as well, because emotions get to high levels, the adrenaline kicks in, everybody starts to, if somebody listening to this here is from the broadcast world, you know what I mean. You know, it's it's hardcore sometimes. It is different than a music recording where the customer is paying either by the hour or by the project, and then you set up your kind of adrenaline, how much you're going to invest on your day. But broadcast is different because it's everything against the clock. Everything is now the adrenaline of plugging in cameras for, I don't know, I will not use this number as in to brag about, but TV Globo at the time was larger than they are now because there was no internet, or there was internet, but there was not the way that we use internet. So the Brazilian crowd, in the millions, man, in the 30, 40 million people watching live, it is a lot of adrenaline, which I miss. It's unreplaceable. Broadcast buzz, it's nothing compares. But I'm happy that I now work for the industry where I have holidays. I'm happy that I work for the industry that I have, I don't know, I mean, I'm just joking, but there is something very, very, I will dare to say it's a privilege for us to work for the industry and see our actions reflected in new products, in new solutions, in new markets. That is my stamina to keep working for manufacturers. I see the value of my work. I see the value that I personally bring to a manufacturer that amplifies that in a global scale. And again, I spend all my mornings correcting AV level 2 projects right now. So it is so nice to see people from all over the world. Asia rules, man. I spend a lot of my time talking to my brothers in Asia who are, oh yes, they know how to dedicate time to this. So there's a lot of advantages I see, and I think for a personal career of anyone working for manufacturers. I'm not saying that is better. It's just different. But you can certainly see that the work you put into developing new solutions. I've had a brief incurrence in product development as well. So seeing some products win awards, seeing products being developed, being deployed here and there, and people happy with that. there is a joy there that you only feel when you work for manufacturers, you know.
I think it's really interesting to hear it like that. You've got your heart in it, really, which is the important point, isn't it? Like all of the manufacturers and the people we deal with on a day-to-day basis, that is part of it. Obviously, the product's got to work. That's kind of the initial point. But behind that afterwards, then it is about the people that you're interacting with and having that understanding. Obviously, from your background, like you're saying there, in terms of music, that's exactly where I started. And I actually started on a drum kit when I was really young. I started getting annoyed with the sound in the venue, so I was like, well, actually, I could probably do that pretty much from behind the drums as well. And then slowly but surely, I kind of thought I might not need to be in a band and just get behind the sound desk. And then obviously, it goes from there, doesn't it? But I think that it all starts with having a good spirit behind it. And I was going to ask you what you think has changed the most in the industry since you started. But obviously, you've mentioned quite a broad span of time and things there already. Are there any just key points if you was to narrow it down to one or two?
Yes, I have seen a lot of changes, and I'm not gonna answer it from a technical perspective. I'll answer it from a more approachable human perspective. What has changed in our industry is that a lot of things are now taken for granted. The expertise that was initially required and valued and applauded and praised for someone in a studio doing a record, or someone broadcasting from a radio station, or somebody broadcasting from a TV station, or somebody putting up a studio or putting up an event, a live event that will require, be it a seminar, presentation, speech only, music and speech, you name it. Many of those things are, I think, from a broader audience perspective, people are now starting to value less the efforts. And I would blame that, my God, to this, man.
Mm-hmm.
This, the interaction of the average everyone with media technologies has become so and so popular and democratized and usual, that real work that goes behind everything sometimes is taken for granted. Oh, this is looking great, as it should. Oh, this is sounding great, as it should. No, 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 no. Mindset in our world as a whole has changed. Uh, that has also to do with automation. And, just think of how long, I mean, you have started with audio as well, right? So let's just say preset.
Yeah,
The term preset, recalling pages, recalling scenes, presets have changed the life of anyone. Just the ability of saving a scene, be it in any audio or video platform. Filters, the use of filters. I think that as a whole, our industry needs to regain that magical aspect. Think of the Lumiere brothers, projecting that footage of a train coming in, and then people afraid of it at first because they were not sure what was going to happen when the train would reach the lens. The industry has changed because from who consumes, right? So from the consumers of our industry, many things are apparently more accessible. So as the way of the market, the more you see something, the less you value it. So the rarity of some of the stuff that we had in the 90s and 2000s, now in 2025, I'm yet to see what's gonna be the new revolution, and it's certainly through networking. I mean, that is not me working for Netgear. That is me as an ambassador. You know, you guys allowed me to dream in the podcast there in the meeting, and I am still a dreamer. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that once we can definitely interconnect everything, I would like to jam with you live, real time, high quality audio, video, holographic. We're yet to see that. So I think that bottom line for the answer is the industry has changed to apparently things have become easier for the crowd to understand. Things have become more popular. Audio and high quality audio, media, high quality video, filters and LUTs and this and that. People are now used to that. So us, what is then our role? You know, so our role is definitely now to admit that the tech is no longer a magical box that one or another detain. No, AV is now something that is in everybody carries a broadcasting station complete with audio, video, links, etc. You know, so I think that our industries really need to be be braver, you know, and go beyond the tech. Otherwise, we are certainly going to be cannibalized by more and more automated things. That's my fear as well. And my advice for myself and for anyone that is not thinking of retiring very soon is, yes, we need to learn more. Yeah, we need to
Yeah,
learn
yeah.
more. We need to learn more to not let ourselves be eaten and be cannibalized by either another human being or another machine that knows more.
Nice. Okay. Well, in a moment, I've got a few questions that are a little bit more brand specific, a little bit more about, equipment and bits like that. But just one last one, and this is what we've asked everyone that's been on a podcast to date, actually. It's about what advice you would give someone that was looking to get into the AV industry, be it from the product side or from being a technician. And we've had really mixed answers, to be honest. So I'm intrigued as to what your advice would be. And then hopefully maybe that might help someone along the way too.
Oh, definitely, man. Well, first of all, is for anyone that would like to start their career in the AV industry, do a little research on all kinds of roles. I am telling you, I know too many guitar players and I know two less, I don't know, tin whistle players, and there's space for everyone, you know. So not everybody in the AV industry is gonna be the sound engineer playing cool there, you know. Not everybody in the AV industry will be the cinema director. Not everybody in our industry is gonna be the super celebrities or celebritized, you know, roles. There are so many roles in our AV industry coming from an artistic perspective or a more organizational one or even a more political one, executive producers, you know, people that are in the AV industry but not directly working with tech. Why am I saying this? Because I myself never understood that I would start working for a manufacturer. I thought that I would be in the production house level or broadcasting level forever. You know, so I surprised myself as well by opening my mind to working for manufacturers. So the AV industry as a whole has all these layers. So first of all, do a little research and check how many how many positions are there in our industry. Then let's say you gravitate towards something more technical. I recognize and I respect when people are a little bit of a jack of all trades. I think that becoming knowledgeable and practical in basic things on all of these roles. Let's just say now define the technical role. So you should know a little bit of video, a little bit of audio, a little bit of acoustics, a little bit of electronics, a little bit of electrical engineer, why not? A little bit of aesthetics, you can be the best sound guy. But if you don't understand that you should roll your cables in an aesthetic way, the band is not going to hire you because you're a messy, good sound engineer,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Or if you're a roadie, you're impeccable as a roadie, but you could never shadow a monitor engineer, then you are too less. So I think that everybody should start, and I like DIY projects as well. I think that it is expensive, I know, but if everybody could have their own mini gear to start with. What is your gear, Ryan? Oh, my gear is my phone, is my camera, good gear. I have a light ring, $10 on eBay, good gear. I have a 3-channel mixing desk, 1 condenser, 1 dynamic. Look at that. How many things you can accomplish with that? So if you're an 18-year-old person starting to go on Facebook, start messing around with stuff, with technical stuff. Then leverage all the content that is online for learning. It is impossible to learn something that it will never touch. So learn online, leverage the events that might in your region. If you can attend a trade show are very good to, enlightening your mind. I would say that anyone at any age could ask for an apprenticeship or a volunteer, uh, whatever contract, I just want to be a fellow observer, right? Then you start asking questions, then you use a little bit of politics to ask for an opportunity, even if it's for free for the first time. Make yourself knowledgeable, useful. I would say that leverage what is online in terms of Netgear Academy, all of the other manufacturers. They have videos. There's plenty of demos on YouTube that you can check things, how they work. Get your DIY mini AV set up so you can start offering services, even if they are cheaper now because your gear is not that capable. But starting. I'm very kinesthetic in this way, so I would not say that just the academical path or just the knock-on jobs. You need to have a little bit of both, and you need to be self-sufficient because there's way more smaller events needing AV technician than big bands on tour requiring, so think to approach the bottom of the pyramid first, and then you walk your way up to MMG level.
That's it, mate. That's it. I mean, I started off literally in the warehouse for one of the bigger touring companies. And in between that, I was fiddling with sound desks next to drum kits, that kind of thing. But then I was lucky enough to have one of the people that was a systems engineer actually take a bit of interest and say, do you know what? Actually, I think you've got something. And he kind of mentored me a little bit early on. And, that's a really big key thing. So I'm going to start firing a few other questions at you, more to do with Netgear now. So just to get a bit of a profile really quickly, what's the main focus of the company at the moment? Are you at a point of like, let's teach everyone or let's develop certain aspects, or is it everything all at once?
Well, Netgear, my dear friends, is an enormous company. We have pillars inside, and I'm just going to keep one pillar to the side now, which is the consumer home products, right? Which is what everybody has in their homes, their home routers, their Orbeez, their Nighthawks, their mesh extenders, and I'm also going to include in this category the unmanaged switch line that we have. So we do have very, very basic, unmanageable switches, which are super handy. And I must say, man, they are very popular. We sell tons and tons of these every year, a lot. It's incredible how many users out there are using Netgear just for its switching capabilities. Nothing more, okay? Nothing in terms of configuration or only AV or anything. So these two pillars of our company are going very well. Thank you very much. I'm going to focus now on Netgear for Business, which is the division that I work for, basically. So Netgear for Business has the AV line of switches, the professional Wi-Fi solutions, and the cloud manageable solutions as well. So as we're now kind of talking in the Netgear AV, I'm now with my Netgear AV hat. I took in the other ones. I'm going to answer you, what is Netgear AV doing and how is that related to the current and the future of our company? Well, Netgear AV is always, since the beginning, making networking, and this is a broad term, easier for AV professionals. That is our main motto, okay? By doing that, or by having that in mind, what are we doing now? We are, as a company, as the Netgear AV pillar inside Netgear for Business, we are talking to more and more manufacturers to understand what they require in terms of networking. Sometimes we're even teaching them what they require. You know, it's kind of a nice partnership, actually. We sometimes figure out what they need and then we create a profile. Sometimes the manufacturer or the developer comes to us, partners, to build a profile. Again, I'm talking about engage profiles. We have just hit the mark of 401 AV manufacturers. This has a lot of value for us because we are actually working, to be honest, for these companies' customers. You know, our main goal is to be the easy, solid solution, like trustworthy solution for all of these 401 partners and their customers. So I could tell that we are up to grab as many partners as we can, so they will all coexist in our networks. That is what we're currently doing. What we will be doing coming up, and I cannot give many spoilers here, but oh God, I have been sitting in some meetings here that they have shown products, Ryan. Woo-hoo! You know, you can kind of get that buzz just to see the drawings. I love to see those drawings still on black and white and just visualize how cool. What I can anticipate is that, yes, we're going heavy on touring stuff, you know, robust stuff, high power PoE stuff. PoE is the way to go. So our switches need to be a synonym of PoE. Mm-hmm. Our switches need to be a synonym of, yes, robust, solid. We have our line, so M4250 entry-level line, very cost-effective for what it serves. Man, this thing is silent. Can you understand what it is to pack PoE, management, a rather good CPU running inside of this, managing all this multicast, all these routing tables in perfect silence, you know? So there is new gear coming up. I'm quite sure that MMG will just like, okay, we want that, sign me in. There's cool new gear coming up. There's another series of, you know, expanded solutions coming up as well. There is wireless access points that now integrate with AV profiles. So in the same way that you were there, click, 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 done, NDI here, Dante here. Now, with all of these control platforms being available wirelessly as well, even Engage can connect to a system wirelessly, don't need to be tethered there. It's done. And not to, now I'm going to brag about it, it's not any Wi-Fi access point, it's Wi-Fi 7 access points. So anyone that is now looking to deploy systems that don't have Wi-Fi, man, go home. Give up. You know, Wi-Fi is no longer a nice to have. It's a mandatory thing. And then you can think of high quality endpoint device clients, high quality AV clients. High density, everybody has a Wi-Fi 6 or 6E or 7 antenna in their pockets. This is a lot, you know.
Mhm.
There is NDI over Wi-Fi. There is other things that can be done over Wi-Fi as well. So I think that moving forward, people should pack their systems with as much bandwidth on the wired and on the wireless levels as well, just to keep everything 3 years future proof. I'm not even saying more. I don't think that future proofing something for the next 5 years is even doable.
Right. I mean, when we had COVID and things kicking around, everything accelerated really quickly. We're now 5 years on from that point, and there's already so much that's happened. I just think that it's going to get more and more compounded so that those movements and those leaps forward really are going to affect each other now. And that's what we saw in the webinar the other day, that the movements of other companies and other people as well are driving it forward so rapidly. So now, really, it is time to get on board if you haven't already. I think overall, really, that's quite a nice overview. I've got one thing I was going to ask because I know people would like to get technical info from listening to this as well. So, one of the big things with NDI is the difference between your switches and other brands, particularly the way in which they handle unicast and multicast traffic. It's one of the main reasons that we use them because they're so solid for what we're doing and what we're utilizing within NDI. And I was just wondering if you could give us a quick rundown of what the difference is between those two types of traffic and what your switches do.
Oh, sure. You just asked me to do what I do, what I like most, man, which is to share. Well, I'm gonna give now two different answers. Actually, the same answer in two different languages here. Very, very technically answering this, a unicast, when we refer to the term unicast, that means that one IP address will communicate directly with another IP address. For that to happen, they must be either in the same network or that packet must be routable. So it should go through a router. That router will then find the other LAN or VLAN where the other IP address resides and will then communicate that unicast packet. Unicast is what happens every time you access the internet. You are asking from a single client device to a single server. When you type in youtube.com, for example, you're reaching the closest server. The closest server might be defined by the DNS, which is the domain name system that runs inside the network as well. And unicast is primarily this singular connectivity, singular communication, one-to-one. Multicast, technically answer, is one IP address that resides inside the local area network talking to a multicast IP address. That multicast IP address will also exist in that same network, but it will not point to another device. So a multicast IP address is not assigned to a device. The multicast IP address is created by the device that is going to multicast that signal to more than one receiver. The multicast IP address range, so the numbers of the IP addresses that can exist to form this kind of virtual little addressing method inside of the local area network, is assigned in the documentation of the devices that you're using, and it must comply with the specific class of IP addresses that has been reserved for multicast, class D. Well, what effectively happens is the device, for example, an audio device that will split its signal to multiple speakers, this device that has an IP address that should comply with class B, A, B, or C IP address types, that will define the multicast IP address and will start streaming content to this, let's call it, little cloud inside the local area network. The other devices that will register for that multicast signal, for that multicast traffic, they will be assigned to listen to that multicast information. So a device is streaming to a little multicast IP address. When you use your control software to register all the other subscribers to this multicast IP address, they will then be able to listen simultaneously to this. So all receivers will be able to see the information coming to that multicast IP address simultaneously, achieving, therefore, a one-to-many. Multicasting is better than unicasting multiple times. First of all, you save in bandwidth. Secondly, with features like IGMP Plus, which is packed on all our Netgear AV switches, you can further contain that multicast traffic only to the receivers that are really interested on that. A scenario without IGMP at all would mean that everybody will be annoyed by that multicast information. That is as much as layer 2, layer 3 technical jargon that I can use here. Now I'm going to give you the user-friendly communication or explanation for this. Unicast is exactly like a phone call. You have a phone number. This here is my phone with a SIM card from the UK. So it starts with +44. But I have another phone here that is connected to my Brazilian family, which is a +55. The +44 network is one network where this SIM card belongs to. I'm going to now call Ryan. +44. I know that he's a Brit because he's handsome like that. You know, I'm going to call him. Hey, Ryan, how are you? I'm fine, Gus. Thank you very mucho. Bye-bye. Shut. This was a single call. A multicast is a WhatsApp group. A WhatsApp group, you either need to create it yourself, so you define your band members or your family members or your work colleagues. So in that case, you are being the transmitter and the controller of that multicast. And then only those receivers will get that information. How? They will all get the info at the same time. Because you're posting, you're publishing, you're streaming, you're not streaming, but you're posting something to a group of receivers. Those receivers, for a WhatsApp group, they could be part of any global network, right? Because WhatsApp itself is a network in itself. So you have, like, if you could have an IP address on this global WhatsApp, my God, how many users are there? You know, so a multicast is like a WhatsApp group where you send information to one virtual location that WhatsApp group does not represent the number of no one's phone, but everybody can have access simultaneously. In case there will be an answer to that multicast group, as, for example, it happens when devices use multicast groups to synchronize themselves. If there will be an answer from the receivers back to that multicast group, the transmitter and all the other receivers can see the answer at the same time. So just migrating now multicast explanation to a clocking infrastructure, a clock master will transmit its PTP sync information to a multicast group, and all the devices will see that PTP information at the same time, will synchronize their clocks, will send back a delay request to figure out how far they are from the clock master on the network, and then everybody can synchronize themselves, even with their neighbors, knowing, okay, I'm 100 microseconds far from the grandmaster clock. Oh, I'm 200. Therefore, I am 100 microseconds further back from you. So with all these mechanisms, using multicast, which again could be paralleled with a WhatsApp group, devices can communicate in a more effective way, sending one message to a virtual IP address, let's just call it like that, where all the receivers can pull that info at the same time and even message back to further provide sync information, for example. Okay, so unicast, phone call to my buddy Ryan. Multicast is a group chat where everybody receives the same information and everybody shares what has been then discussed there. How is that for an explanation?
That's perfect, mate. Gus, thanks for joining us today. If there's anything else that people want to know, where can they head to?
Oh, please, everybody, thank you for taking the time to listen to me, to listen to Netgear AV Solutions here. The next step is academy.netgear.com. Please visit and register to our new Academy portal and get access to, I think we now have 9 full training paths there in both the AV and on the IT Wi-Fi cloud pillars of our Netgear for Business divisions. There is also a replay of all the live webinars that we conduct bi-weekly here at Netgear. All of this information, including accreditation for Avixa RUs, if you are in the Avixa programs as well. Most of our courses offer Avixa credits. All of them are for free in exchange, of course, for your appreciation and encouraging your other colleagues by sharing your certificates online. Once again, academy.netgear.com, free to register, free to access and follow all our certifications there. And I hope to see your certificates online as well.
Thanks, Gus. See you soon. That's all for today. So, as always, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel and podcast, and we'll see you next time.